so much for getting this cute love bug painting art kit. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited that you get to have this experience. So put on some comfy clothes. Cover your painting surface because this paint does not wash off. You don't want to get it on something special. Grab all your supplies from your art kit and grab a water cup for cleaning your brushes. Maybe turn on some jams and grab a snack, and let's make this a whole fun experience. All right, guys, I have all the paints on my plate, and I have more than enough paint, and that's because I'm doing multiple paintings at once. But if I were you, I would leave your paint in the kits, in the little tins, and then just scoop out as you need it to be able to mix and make colors on your paint plate, okay? So when you're ready, you can get started with me. Remember, you can pause me and play me at any time, so that way you don't get overwhelmed or behind, or if you get ahead, fast forward me, right? All right, guys, I am going to start with the biggest brush. I do like to hold my brush just like I hold a pencil, right where the metal and the handle touch. And it's the one with the pointy corners. I'm going to grab some white and move it over here. And I'm going to grab a little bit of black. I'm talking little bit of black, and mix that in to my white so that I can make a gray color. And here we go. Maybe a little darker. Now, you guys mix whatever color background you want. Make sure that when you're mixing, you keep all your paint in one little pile, just like that, okay? Then I will start wherever you want to. There's no right or wrong answer, but I am going to outline. If you don't trust yourself to outline with this brush, you can most definitely use one of your smaller brushes to outline with, and then go back with the big brush to fill in the bigger spaces. Okay? Here we go. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to work my way all the way around here. And as you're painting, if you notice any little bitty white spots showing, that is the texture of the canvas showing through, and it means that you need more paint on your brush, okay? So we're going to go around here, and here, and here, just like this. Ta-da! And kind of dab it on in there. There we go. All right. Here we go. We'll just work our way around. Once you get all the way around, then it's a whole lot easier to get the background filled in because you don't have to be quite so careful. And honestly, I'm using such a light gray, it really would not be the end of the world if I got some gray on everything else that I'm painting, just so you know, okay? So some people really stress when they're painting about getting paint where it doesn't belong, but honestly, we can cover all of this up and it's no big deal, okay? So I'm going to get all around here just like this. Ta-da! And don't forget under the steering wheel, because that's background color as well, and then between all these little flowers, just like that. Okay, now when you start filling in the rest of your background, it's really, like I said, no big deal. We can get all of that just like so. And honestly, I don't worry about making it nice and smooth. I just kind of swirl my brush around, get it all filled in. There we go. Okay. And one thing to think about when you mix your colors, I should have said this earlier, is make sure that you definitely mix enough. If you're painting a bigger area like the background, of course you're going to need to mix more paint than if you're painting, you know, a smaller area like the car surface, right? There's not as much car as there is background. Now, if you want to, you can always paint your edges as well. I like to do that because when you hang this up, you're not always going to walk just straight up to it. Sometimes you walk in and you can see a painting from a side view, right? An angle. And so if you don't have your edges painted, you know, it's kind of noticeable. Sometimes those edges are a little sloppy. At least when I paint them, they are. You might be a very careful painter and may not get any paint on your edges, but mine inevitably always have a little bit of paint on them. So might as well just go ahead and paint it all, right? So I am working on getting all these little spots touched up that seem like they're maybe a little lighter than other spots. And then of course at some point I do need to paint the bottom edge of my canvas as well. Okay, there we go. So that's the background. Now, in order to clean our brush, I tell the boys at school, becomes a ballerina, and we are going to smush and swirl on the bottom of our cup, and smush and swirl, no tap dancing. Instead, we wipe, wipe, wipe as best as we can, okay? So wipe, wipe, wipe. Then, of course, we need to dry, dry, and dry. So I am going to switch to this brush. It's the biggest one, but it has the rounded corners. And this time I'm going to use the red paint, and I'm going to put one coat of red on just as it is. Now, again, if you don't trust yourself with this brush, then use a smaller brush to do any kind of outlining, and then go back with the bigger brush to fill it in so it looks nice and smooth. The nice thing about this brush is it has stiff bristles, so really the paint is going to stay where you put it. It's not going to spread like with pressure with the bristles, okay? So, there we go. Nice. All right, and then we'll get right in here. Just like that. There we go. And up in here. And you know, if you get a little out of the lines, no stressing about it. This is supposed to be just a fun experience. And so by chance, if that happens, we don't stress about it because, you know, you can just kind of change the shape of your car a little bit. No big deal. Nobody has to know that, right? Plus, at the end, we can clean up all of our edges by painting over the black Sharpie lines with black paint, or you can clean up the edges by retracing those Sharpie lines with your permanent marker that came in your kit, which is my method of preference, just because it's so much easier than trying to paint a black outline, okay? So now I'm just filling in the car, left, right, put a nice, even, smooth layer on, okay? Now these little spots right here in the middle are going to be gray, so I have to kind of slow down a little. There we go. There we go. Because I don't want to go crazy with my lines. Awesome. Okay. There. There we go. Okay. Now, this is going to be red right here. You may prefer to use a smaller brush just to make sure that you keep that paint where it's supposed to be. Or, like I just used this brush, just go slow, smooth pressure, not too hard, and your paint will stay where you want it, okay? The rest of this is going to be gray and black and gray, and then we have our flowers and we have our greenery, right? Okay, so let's talk about how to get some of that darker shading on the red car. I got a cool little trick for you. I'm going to let this brush hang out in the water. I'm not going to worry about cleaning it right at this moment, okay? So now I'm going to use the smaller flat brush with the pointy corners. I'm going to teach you a cool little trick. You can take a little bit of your turquoise, or you can make green and do this as well. And you can mix over here in the side of your red, not in all of your red, just in some of your red, and keep mixing in a little bit more until you make a darker version of red, okay? Here we go, just like that. Now, there we go. I can use this and I can, oh, man, this brush is stiff. I might not have cleaned it out very good. You guys got to make sure you clean out your brushes really good. Or we might just need to let that red dry a little bit. That might be it. Let's let that red dry just a little bit longer. Plus, I'm going to let this brush soak a little bit and get that clean better. So while we wait to move on, I'm going to use, I think I'm going to clean this bigger brush with the rounded corners, and we're going to make some green, okay? Remember, you rub that brush in the bottom of the cup, wipe it on the side, and then you can get right in. Now to make green, I'm going to do a pile of yellow and a little bit of blue at a time until I like it. So I did a chunk of yellow and then about a little less than a chocolate chip amount of blue to make green. There we go. Maybe a little bit more. Go. Now, okay, now I'm going to work on getting all of my leaves with just a layer of this base green. Just like that. Okay, so every leaf is going to get a base of this just regular green. Then you have choices. You can make a darker green by adding more blue, or vice versa. Red is green's complement, so I could put a little bit of red in my green to darken it up. Here we go. And I could do a little bit of that to make a darker green too, so that I can create a little bit of a shadow on these leaves. And it helps it to kind of bring it to life a little bit when you can have lighter areas and darker areas, which is what I was trying to do to the car just a little bit ago, so that I could, you know, create a sense of depth. Okay. There. So I'm going to put that in the water, and I'm going to grab one of my other pointy brushes. This one is not super pointy on the end, and I am going to hold it just like I hold my pencil. I'm going to try adding a little bit more blue. Let's see what kind of green we go with here. It's a pretty good green, maybe a smidge more. All right, now roll that extra green off, and I can definitely kind of pop the corners. You got to decide which side you want to be the darker shade of green. Do you want it to be the underside? Do you want it to be the right side, the left side? So you kind of have to imagine, if there was a light shining down, where would it be shining from? And go from there, okay? So my light is shining down from above, which means that I'm hitting all the undersides with my darker green that I just created, okay? There we go, and then this side will be the right side because the light's right here, so it's shining that way. Okay, then if I want to, I could grab a pile of teal, kind of mix that in over here with some of this green, so we go greenish teal, maybe add just a pop of white in there to soften it, just like that. There we go. Okay, and then we can just hit the tops just like that. Awesome. Okay. And realistically, we've pretty much covered up our base screen, but even though you can't really see the base screen anymore, it helps with having it there because it creates some blending and it creates a good green foundation, right? I could even add just some straight white on my brush and do just a pop of white here and there, just like that. Ta-da! Awesome. Okay, now I cleaning this brush really good. It's full of green, so I gotta get it all out. And dry, dry, dry. And I just sweep on my napkin to dry. That way I don't really ruin my brush. If you smush it, you kind of ruin your bristles when you do it on the napkin, not when you do it in the water. And so I just sweep my brush to get all the extra water out. Now, what I'm going to do now is I am going to put a base of white on this flower. And I'm trying to stay in the lines just because I've painted everything else around it, right? And I'm putting my white on kind of thick. There we go. And I'm only going to do a few flowers at a time. I'm not doing them all because it'll dry too fast if I do them all, and I won't be able to get to the blending part before it dries, right? Okay, now I'm going to leave this white in here. I'm going to grab the tiniest bit of red, and I am going to work on getting this blended in here, just like that, okay? And as I blend, it's curve, curve, curve on the left, curve on the right, curve below, curve below. And I just keep curving that around. The more you go over it, the more it will blend, and you won't really see all your work you've been doing to create this great texture, okay? Let me show you. Just like that. Okay. Go. Now you can do even more blending and all of that if you want to, or you can keep it real simple. It's up to you. You can even make it solid. Now that I have put red on my brush, instead of cleaning it, I'm just gonna dip, like I'm just dipping in the side of my white, not in the middle, so I don't ruin it all. And yes, now my flowers are gonna look kind of pinkish. There we go. There we go. And that's okay if they look pinkish, because that's what I'm going for anyway, right? There we go. Okay, I'm gonna grab some red. And work this around. There we go. And there. Okay. Awesome. So that pretty much is the flowers. Now, if I wanted to, I could go back to that brush I was using just a little bit ago. The small one that's not super pointy on the end, it's just kind of curved, or it's just kind of flat. And I could dip straight in my red, and I could work on putting a little bit of that around the edges. Just quick sweep, sweep. If you can still see those Sharpie lines, you could even put a little bit there. So sweep around your edges like that. Sweep on these Sharpie lines like that. And it gives it one extra sense of depth because we have all these values of color. You have your light, light pink, medium, and dark, and then darkest, right? And it just looks really beautiful, I think. I have a really, really, really soft touch. I am barely touching the canvas at all, and it's a quick sweep. Just a sweep around, okay? You can always, if you're having a hard time on the canvas, you could always practice on, you know, your napkin, a paper, cardboard, something like that until you kind of get the hang of it. Because by the time you've done all of them, you're going to be like an expert, like it ain't no thing. But the first time you do it, it's really a little scary and nerve-wracking, and I don't want you to be scared or nerve-wracked. Okay. My guess is our base red is probably dry by now, or dry-ish, so I can go back to that darker red that I made, and I can start sweeping a little bit of that onto my car. So I could put some here, and all, same thing, just quick sweep, sweep, sweep. Flick of the brush, flick of the wrist, sweep on here. And all this does is create a little feeling of dimension, okay? There we go, there we go, there we go. Awesome. Okay, so this, like I said, just gives a little added depth, makes it look so cool, takes it up a notch, right, in the interest level, and people will have no clue how easy it was. They're gonna think you're incredible because you are. You're incredible. Okay, I ran out of gray because I used it all on my background, so I gotta make some more. Pile of white. This gray is going to be darker, so I need to add a little bit more black than I did the first time, but I don't want to overestimate or overshoot, so I'm just going to do a little bit at a time till I like it. There we go. There we go. All right, that's still not dark enough though, because it's not far off from the background color. So I'm going to start with this and see what I think. This might be a good base color, and then I could always make it a little bit darker if I needed to. Okay. Yeah, I like it. There we go. I'm trying to stay off of those kind of rectangle-y shaped areas because those are going to be darker, or excuse me, lighter, like shines, and I don't want to miss them. But if I were to get paint on them, it would not be a big deal because I could cover it right up. Okay, there's a good base of gray. Now I can leave this in my brush, grab a little bit of white, make a lighter gray with what's in my brush, and just do a little pop of color here. And pop a light here, and a pop a light here. Okay, and then, oh, if you don't trust yourself with this rectangle brush, it's okay. Switch to smaller brushes, guys, for real. You know what you can handle. So just because I'm using this brush for all these different spots doesn't mean that you have to, okay? There. Now I'm going to, I'm not even clean this brush out, I'm just going to use it with the gray in it and get my tires filled in. There we go. And here. All right. Now I'm going to use the smaller brush that we've been using this whole time and mix a little bit more black over here on the side of my dark gray. So I have a really dark gray. Sweep just a little bit of this in at the bottom of the bumper. Just like that. And I can get some of that off my brush, dip straight in the white. I can do a little pop of white on those shines, you know. Pop of white. And then I also had some pops of white on here. So on the top, what are those called? Fenders. Pop of white here. A little pop of white there. I could even put a little pop of white on the steering wheel. Maybe a little shine on the mirror. Awesome. We already did the leaves. Oh yes, this looks so good, guys. If you wanted one more added layer of depth, you could take that dark red that we put on the car and put just little pops of that in these, just like that. Okay. Awesome. Oh my gosh, this little love bug makes me so happy. You are going to love it, or whoever you give it to is going to love it. Okay, now you have a decision to make. Oh, I see one more thing we need to do, guys. I'm going to take a little bit more red and mix it in over here so I make my darker green that I was telling you about. And we could do a little pop in here. Remember, pause me at any time. Sometimes I forget how fast I am, and I've been painting for a long time, since college, and I have been out of college for 16 years, and so I got a lot of practice, okay? So that's what's kind of going on here with this painting. Now, the very, very last decision to make. Are you going to Sharpie all the black lines on the car, or are you going to paint them with your paintbrush in the black paint? It's totally up to you. I prefer Sharpie. I think it's so much easier, but again, your choice, okay? If you choose to do the black paint, here's a little trick. You dip your brush in your water and then just kind of rub that brush over in the side of your black paint so that you thin it down just a little bit. Don't make it super thin because you don't want it running down your canvas. But this is going to help it to glide on your canvas a lot easier than just using the paint straight out of the tin, okay? Also, you may want to use like that little bitty baby brush depending on how heavy your touch is. If you have a heavy hand, the smaller the brush you have, the more likely that paint is going to stay where you want it, okay? There we go. Okay. So again, definitely nothing wrong with you using your Sharpie, and in fact, that's what I prefer to do because honestly, you cannot even tell, really, if you're looking at somebody's painting. Unless you're looking at it like super close up, you can't tell that they Sharpied it instead of painting it. If you decide to paint, another trick you can do is go blow dry your painting so it's completely dry, and then that way you can lay it flat and then be able to rest your hand wherever you need to rest your hand so that you can be more steady. There we go. Okay. And you know, if you kind of change the outline of things, it's okay. Nobody's going to know unless you tell them, right? Right. Okay, guys. So this is our cute little love bug. I love it. I hope that you had the best time painting it, and I am sure you have a beautiful creation. Definitely post pictures and tag Artsy Rose so I can see your creation. And you guys have the best week, and thanks for hanging out with me. I cannot wait to paint with you again.